One patient, one virus, one animal. And
because normally it takes a virus time to become more and more transmissible. There should be a trail of patients.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And again, so in my Bayesian analysis, I looked at stored specimens in Wuhan in China. I had about 2,000 of them in the public record, none of which had SARS-CoV-2. The WHO has actually updated that. So there are 10,000 specimens that they reported on in their report with zero seroconversion before the first date. So nobody out of 10,000 in archive specimens had SARS-CoV-2. What is the MERS or SARS-CoV-1 history there? 1 to 4%. So that means 100 to 400 samples there should be evidence of SARS-CoV-2 in 100 to 400 specimens out of 10,000. There was zero.
The reason why we just spent 30 minutes talking about this and why you're spending part of your career studying this and why so many other scientists are looking at it is because in order to understand the next pandemic, you have to you need to trace back the origins of this one. Can I ask you something that occurs to me, and you can tell me whether it's ridiculous or not, but in trying to fight this pandemic and come to terms with what COVID-19 is it important that we understand it was created in a lab? Does it make it a very different pandemic and a very different fight?
It has one, it seems to me it has one aspect of the design of a virus that causes a pandemic that I think is interesting and worth talking about. So the downside is that it is clearly pre-adapted for humans. So when SARS-CoV-1 first jumped into humans, it had only 17% of all the mutation changes it needed to cause that initial epidemic, 17%. This one has 99.6% at the get-go. So the downside is it was very pre-adapted, so it spread very quickly, very widely, and that was the first wave of it. There actually is an upside to that, which is it has very little genetic runway, very little movement to improve. So in the spike protein, there are only five positions that it could mutate at to get better at from the initial case. It turns out what we called the UK strain, the British strain that was started in the fall and spread, that was one of the five. So and now
what about the India variant?
That's another one. So it's used up 2 of the 5 possible improvements in the spike protein in terms of binding. So that's somehow to me encouraging that this thing, that we've seen the worst of it, and these variants are not going to be able to have much impact. I did another analysis, and there's 8 epitopes. So the human immune system sees 8 separate things on the spike protein when it sees this virus. So it makes 8 different kinds of antibodies. And at this point in time, the Indian strain has only gotten rid of 2 of those 8. So we still have 75% of the epitopes are the same. When I was teaching at Stanford, 75 was a C, but in immunology, that's a pass-fail, and that's a strong pass. You probably have to get well below 50% to have an issue there.
Does that give you a roadmap on where we will be in a year or 3 from now with this virus?
I said a year ago that unfortunately 7 billion people have to either get the virus or get the vaccine. And I'm afraid I haven't changed that tune yet.
And we're years away from that.
That is unfortunate. That's the analysis, Dana.
Stephen, last word to you, and I thank you for your time on all of this, just wrapping it together.
Well, I think that my belief is that it's a gain-of-function research project. My belief is that there is a way forward for gain-of-function research to be done on a different structure. I'm going to be proposing that publicly in the next few months when I put together a consortium around how that should be conducted. But I think absent that, we're just going to do this again with another virus in another decade or another few years.
Or just ban gain-of-function altogether.
We could. That would be the easiest. I'm willing to find a middle road if that is possible.
Dr. Stephen Quay from Taiwan. Stephen, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking all that science and trying to make it as digestible as possible, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Dana, for focusing on this. It's an important issue.